I work at McDonald's as I'm a high school student and just turned 16, so it's a decent first job for me. About a month ago, I was working in the drive-thru taking people's orders. It was a Friday night, and things were finally quieting down at about 10 p.m. A car pulled up to the drive-thru and I began to take their order. After I spoke and asked them what they would like, they didn't respond. It was just silence for a few seconds. I repeated myself. The person responded by saying my name, and not just my first name, but my full name, first, middle, and last. I realized it must be someone that I knew, but I didn't recognize the voice or the person. I was confused. I asked who it was. They didn't answer. They just repeated my name one more time. They then drove off. It was a man wearing sunglasses. I didn't recognize him at all. I was pretty spooked for the rest of my shift. After I got off, I went home and told my parents. They were just as confused as I was. To this day, I don't know who it was, and every time I think about it, it creeps me out. This happened to me about a year ago. I was hanging out with some of my friends from high school. One of them worked at McDonald's, and we stopped by because he wanted to say hi to one of his coworkers. There were four of us, and it was about 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Our friend went inside, and the three of us chilled outside because it was a nice night. I don't think there were any customers at the time, besides us. But after a minute or so, we noticed a man riding a three-wheeled bike around the corner. He had a speaker attached to the back of his bike, which was playing music. We all watched as he rode by us and around the parking lot. He started riding laps around the restaurant. My friends and I thought this was funny and made a couple jokes about it. After about 10 laps, he rode up to us and stopped. He had long hair and a slight beard. He was wearing baggy clothes and appeared to be in his late 20s. He stopped his bike about 5 feet away from us and turned down his music. We all looked at him. "You guys want to know something?" he said. "Sure," I said. He responded with, "I'm about to rob this place." We all looked at each other confused. One of my friends laughed a little. We figured he was joking, but it was kind of a weird thing to say. He just stared at us with a slight grin on his face for a couple seconds. I turned and looked and saw my friend was still talking to his coworker friend at the counter. I kind of wanted to leave. Finally, the man spoke again. "I'd get out of here if I was you guys," he said. "Why's that?" my friend asked. The man said to just leave. My friend said no. I was surprised, but I realized there were four of us and one of him, and he wasn't any bigger than any of us. The man stood there next to his bike for about 30 seconds just staring at us. Finally, he got back on his bike and rode off. We felt tough for possibly preventing a robbery, as much as we didn't know how serious the man was, or if he was on drugs or something. We all went home, and the next morning I woke up to see my friend post in our group chat a link to a news story. It was about a local bank that had been broken into the previous night. A rock was thrown through the window, and a man was arrested inside. It was the same man. When I was in college, I worked at McDonald's during the summer. One day, I was working on a Saturday, and I was behind the counter taking people's orders. It was going pretty well for a weekend, until a man came up and asked for 2 Big Macs. I put in the order, he paid, and I gave him his receipt. I then helped the next person in line. About a minute later, he came back up and said he was charged for 2 Big Macs, but he only wanted 1. I told him he ordered 2, because I know I heard him say 2 Big Macs. He got angry when I said that, and said, "Don't put words in my mouth. I know what I said." "I'm sorry, sir, I wasn't trying to," I said. He then told me not to get smart with him. I could tell he was a short-tempered man. I apologized again and offered to give him money back for a Big Mac and only give him the 1, but he said he didn't want that anymore. He then started saying that I should be fired. I told him to calm down, but that didn't work. He started raising his voice, and everybody in the restaurant was beginning to notice. One of my coworkers, Jack, came up and started talking to the man. After a brief conversation with Jack, he said he didn't want anything and he just wanted to leave. We gave him his money, and I thought the situation was over. That is, until he leaned in over the counter and said to me, "When you get off, I'll be waiting for you." I didn't know whether to take this as a joke or not, but clearly the man had issues if he was going to make a scene over an extra Big Mac. I didn't say anything, and he turned and walked out. I wasn't too concerned with his threat at all, because I was only an hour into my 8-hour shift. I knew there's no way a man was going to wait around that long, and I didn't think he would actually do that at all. I worked the rest of my shift, which went by relatively well. In fact, by the time I was done, I had forgotten all about the incident. It was 10 p.m. when I was off, so I got my things and headed out to my car. As I approached my car, I saw a car at the other end of the parking lot's doors swing open. Sure enough, out walked the man from earlier. I couldn't believe he actually waited for me. I sprinted for my car and he chased after me. I almost made it to my door when he grabbed my arm. He started to pull me away from my car. And that's when I screamed like a little girl. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my pepper spray and sprayed it everywhere. Eventually it got his face in the struggle and he let go of me and ran away. I accidentally sprayed myself in the face as well, but I was able to get into my car and lock the door with my eyes burning. It didn't get me too bad and I was able to regain my composure after a couple minutes. I saw two people walking towards my car in concern. They asked me if I was okay and if they should call the police. I said yes, and the police arrived shortly after and took down my information. Unfortunately, the man got away, but I just feel lucky that he didn't hurt me. It still blows my mind to think that he waited around 7 hours to confront me. This happened to me last year. I was hungry after a late night shift at work. It was past midnight, so I knew I didn't have many options. I saw McDonald's and pulled off the highway to go there. McDonald's hours vary depending on the location, so I was hoping they would be open. However, the lights were fairly dim, so I wasn't quite sure. I decided to pull into the drive-thru to see. When I pulled up to the speaker, I heard a voice say, "Hi, welcome to McDonald's. What can I get you today?" I said I would have the number 9, and that was all. They said sure and to pull up to the first window. So I pulled my car around. However, when I reached the window, nobody came to it. I saw the kitchen lights appeared to be all dimmed as if they were closed. I waited there for a couple minutes. I knew I was the only customer, so I didn't know what was taking them so long. After another minute went by, I didn't see any movement at all. I took out my phone and searched McDonald's on Google Maps. The location came up, and when I looked, it said it was closed. I was confused and kept staring at my screen, wondering if this was a mistake. Just then, I saw somebody finally appear at the window out of the corner of my eye. It was a man in all black with a hood covering most of his face. As soon as I turned my head, he ducked down. I drove off as fast as I could and went straight home. I don't know who that was or what happened, but I do know I won't go back to that McDonald's.